Film Club.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Film Club. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Harrison, and with me, as always, it's Andy Donaldson.
Hello.
Every week in Film Club, we invite you along to watch a film with us, and this week, we're walking the line.
To protect you and defend you, whether you are right or wrong. Someone to open each and every door, but it ain't me, babe. No, it ain't me, babe. It ain't me you're looking for, babe.
Walk the Line, which is Johnny Cash, and it's going through his life, the biography of his life, through his upbringing, which is quite harsh upbringing with his father, through his realization that he might become a musician, his music, and the flawed character that he was. He lived a fantastic life, absolutely tons of music, and as this film shows, he had a deep chemistry with prisoners. You know, the Folsom Prison Blues. He wrote songs about being in prison, and the prisoners, you know, they're kind of connected with that. And he actually did a lot of, I think it was all his gigs that he did in prisons were free. Johnny Cash was this character. When we're talking levels of kind of Elvis, who actually seen this film, we're talking levels of Elvis. We're talking levels of kind of other amazing musicians. You know, Freddie Mercury. And this film is Joaquin Phoenix bringing his persona to life in a way that we might not have seen, you know, especially us in England. That I would have loved seeing Johnny Cash in my lifetime, one of the top artists I ever see. And it's done by James Mangold, who actually wanted to do this film. He wanted to go forward. And it's not perfect, but for biography, especially as someone who is like as prolific as Johnny Cash, I think it holds up so well. And one of the most notable things of the film is that Reese Witherspoon, who does June Carter, and Joaquin Phoenix, who does Johnny Cash, both sing their own music, and man, they do it well.
They're very clever about how, like, they'll get Joaquin Phoenix to sing some of his own stuff, and then sometimes they'll also bring in the actual recordings of Johnny Cash. They're very, very clever about, like, you know, seeding those two things together and letting them flow very well. I love the fact that it's a biopic that doesn't fall into the normal biopic, like, trappings. You know, like when we've talked about stuff like Bohemian Rhapsody with Freddie Mercury, and typically a lot of those biopics, because they've got like family involved, because they've got estates involved, because they've got like people who knew that particular person involved, they kind of like to like whitewash the character a little bit, and they try to like sort of make them a bit more ethereal, a bit more perfect than they ever were. And I really appreciate that Walk the Line doesn't do that. It really sort of shows you how much of a flawed character Johnny Cash was, because I think that a lot of his fans like him and appreciate the fact that he wasn't this perfect guy, but he was open about not being perfect. You know, it's a very humanizing way to be celebrity, to let your flaws be shown, to be seen, and to influence the creative process as well.
Just to bring it back a bit, rein it back a bit, I mispronounced Phoenix, didn't I? He said Joaquin. I said Joaquin. Is that right? I think we've had this issue before.
I think he should officially change his name to Joaquin Phoenix.
Right, okay, Joaquin, sorry. So it's interesting, it's a testament to him, especially in those most vulnerable of moments, and you can see that vulnerability of him. For those who don't know, Joaquin Phoenix had a brother, River Phoenix, who actually passed away due to drug addiction out in LA. So it must hit home to portray a character like that, especially, you know, like kind of so close to home, and you know, his brother. So it was all the more like tough, like to watch, you know, on him. So all the more reason to testament to him as an actor and what he actually managed to produce. And equally, you know, his chemistry with Reese Witherspoon, who's fantastic in this film. She holds up so well. She holds up that kind of concerned friend / lover, but also she knows when to say no, and she does so much with the facial expression to kind of like counteract, but at the same time support Cash's character. And it's just brilliant because, and there's a lovely moment that they do in this film as well. Ring of Fire is one of his most famous songs, and it was, oh, Ring of Fire, it's a great song, it's very upbeat. First off, it's actually about, you know, the kind of flawed character that he is. Secondly, it was actually wrote by June Carter, that not many people know about. This film shows her in the initial steps of actually making the song, and it's a lovely little nod to a kind of a song that not many people know the true history about. And it was fantastic that the film actually he put that forward. It's not perfect as a film. I'm not going to lie. I was going through it last night, and it's a long film. You know, it's just over 2 hours long, and some of the pacing, whilst not necessarily bad, there was a couple of bits of pacing where it kind of dragged on a little bit. Did kind of struggle to get over there. It was a little too long for my liking, but at the same time, it touches on a lot of notes that really work with the film. I mean, there's some great examples at the start in his relationship with his brother. You know, the relationship with his dad that's very picked up. It's picked up at the very end of the film, and kind of ends on a high note, which is nice. But at the same time, it's like you do see, you know, the drug issues throughout his life, the issues with his band. That's Tennessee 2. I think it becomes Tennessee 3, and it's lovely how they go through all these moments of life. But as mentioned, it is a little too long.
I found the filmmaking to be very inobtrusive, and I found that the filmmaking being inobtrusive and being sort of a slice of life story, by the time that like 2.5 hour mark rolled round and the credits hit, I was ready for more. I was quite happy to sit there and watch like another hour, 2 hours of you know, this fascinating life they've put together. And obviously any sort of biopic is going to have a little bit of extra dramatization. I know that like there's debate, right? So there's always going to be elements of authenticity in something. But the way in which that authenticity is produced and the way in which it finds itself on screen often struggles to communicate the nuance of real life. I think this might be like my favorite James Mangold film, at least from what I've seen from it. I haven't seen his entire filmography, but at the time, obviously James Mangold was making some really good stuff. This is like followed up afterwards by his 3:10 to Yuma remake.
I've not watched that. I've heard it's good.
It's a really good remake, and I love the original 3:10 to Yuma as well, but it's a good film. And then obviously a couple of years afterwards, he starts doing stuff like Wolverine and Logan, and I think now people are really sort of looking at James Mangold as a heavy-hitting director. But I think that this feels a little bit more natural than a lot of his other work. I think it feels a little bit more like he's allowing the story to lead the way rather than the filmmaking lead the way. It's all the stronger for it.
I was really surprised last week when you mentioned that he did Logan. I was like, what, same director, really? It's so different in terms of style.
Soon he's meant to be directing the new Indiana Jones film. Whether or not that goes down well, we'll see. I've got doubts about that. But you know,
production's behind it though, isn't it? Yeah. So it goes.
So there is Walk the Line. You can let us know in the comments below what you thought of Walk the Line. But Andy and I are going to be back once again next week, where it's time to take another audience recommendation. Thanks to Amy Ridley, we're taking a look at Whale Rider.
Cheers, guys.
Until then, get watching.